Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another video. My name is NDIFON NTUI, and on this channel I make sewing tutorials. I know that this is not the video that you are expecting. That video is going to come really soon. So in this video I'm going to show you how to make an off-shoulder bomber jacket. I hope that this will keep you entertained until the video on how to sew the blazer dress is released. If you're watching this video, thank you. Please make sure to subscribe and do make sure to like the video if you find this video if this video is useful to you or if you learn something from it. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video, but let's enjoy this video first. Yo, what's up? You're welcome to another video. In this video I'm going to show you how to make an off-shoulder bomber jacket. Now I've gone ahead to draft the block that I'm going to use. I've made a video on how to cut and sew a bomber jacket before. The basic block is the same. That's what I have here. So if you don't know how to draft the block that you're seeing here, I'm going to drop a link on how to draft the bomber jacket in the description. You should see that, if just to add to whatever I will show you in this video. But just to explain what we have here, this is a regular block. There's a half-inch line in front of here that's supposed to serve for my my half-inch I'll use to sew on to attach my zipper. And when I was drafting using the front to cut the back, I didn't bother to take it out because this is an off shoulder, so it's not going to really increase anything in your shoulder. Besides, the rib we would put at the top part of the jacket would bring everything back together, sort of like an elastic. So the half-inch extra there is going to make it a bit free, would not really change much at the back. That's why I didn't bother cutting it out. So you can see that the two patterns are identical. Now this is the shoulder, this is the bust, under bust length, this is the jacket length. Now you can see that the side is straight down, it's not curvy. That's not because of the measurements I'm using, that's not because of the measurement that the person has. It's because the measurements I used from top all the way down is the bust, because the bust is the biggest measurement I'm working with. If you're making for a person that is pregnant, if the person that's pregnant wants to put this on, you can always bring up use the belly measurement at the bust if at that point the belly is bigger than the bust. The only changes I'm going to make between to differentiate the front from the back is I'm going to need to cut the back shorter, and I'm going to need to cut some sort of L out of the front here. The reason why I'm going to do that is because of where the elastic is going to meet in the front. So how are we going to do this? You're going to come to the bottom of the jacket. Now as for the width of this fabric, you can pretty much use whatever you want, but for me 3.5 is okay. You can make it even thinner to even 2.5, so 3.5 inches, and then I'm going to come up by 2 inches. I'm using these 2 inches because of the height of the elastic I'm using. If you are using of the rib I'm using, sorry. Alright, so this is the rib I'm going to use, and the height, the width of the rib is 2.5 inches. By the time I stitch half inch into the body, it will consume half an inch, so I would have only 2 inches left. So that's why I've kept 2 inches here, because half inch from this rib will be planted into the top. Connect the lines together. So I'm going to start from the bottom here and connect it all the way to this 2 inches. And then I'm going to connect it out. And then, being that the back does not need it, I'm going to cut everything off at the back, so only the front is going to have it. Alright, so now you can see we're going to have our rib running from the front into the back. Alright, so now this is the back, this is the front. We're going to take it out for the next step. The next step will be to cut the sleeve. For the sleeve, you take your sleeve measurements, like regular measurements. You take your bicep measurements, you take the sleeve length. Alright, so take the sleeve length. Normally don't take it because you are making an off shoulder. When you are taking a measurement, take the measurement from where you're supposed to take it all the way to your wrist. Alright, don't take off any measurements because of you want to make it an off shoulder. I'm going to cut it now that we're drafting. Alright, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to take your bicep measurement, alright, and you're going to come from the edge of the paper divide your measurement by 2 and make a mark. So for me, the bicep measurement I'm working with is 12.5. 12.5 inches divided by 2 should give us 6.25, and the allowance that we are adding to the sleeve is the same thing with the allowance I added to the body. I'm keeping 1.5 inches. 6.25 plus 1.5 inches is equals to 7.75. So we're going to come here and we're going to make a mark at 7.75. Alright, now that 1.5 inches of allowance, it has two jobs. Alright, first of all, inside that 1.5 inches, we have our regular seam allowance. In this case, it's going to be half an inch. That extra 1 inch in the 1.5 is the allowance for the ease, because this is a bomber jacket. This is not the bodycon dress, so it's going to need some ease from your body. Sorry. So and I marked 7.5 the first time. So 7.75, we've made the mark. Roll a line from the top of your paper down. Alright, so now after I've ruled the line, the next thing I want you to do, I want you to come from the edge of the line and mark the points that you kept for ease. So that 1.5 inches we kept for ease, make a mark from this line, make a mark half inch in, back in, like I'm doing now. Alright, that's to show where your actual measurement stops and where your ease starts from, where your allowance starts from, sorry. Alright, so now we have two spaces. The space from here to here is our 6.25, which is the bicep measurement divided by 2, and this 1.5 is our allowance. The next thing we're going to do for the sleeve, I want you to mark the sleeve length. So the sleeve length we are working with is 23 inches. We're going to mark 23.5 inches. The 0.5 inches is the half inch allowance at the top. Okay, so just add half inch to whatever your sleeve length is. So 23.5, I'm going to mark 23.5 over there. Alright, so 23.5, and then roll a line across. Alright, now that has been done, I'm going to place our patterns on top. The reason why we added that half inch to the 23 is because of the half inch we have at the shoulder here. I don't want to push it up, I want this to be easy. Just align the top part of your bodice with the top part of your paper. Alright, so you can see what I'm doing. I have aligned the, where's the cover to my pen? So you can see what I've done here. I want you to simply align the lines together. So the allowance line, I want you to place them like I have placed them, and now you can go ahead and cut. So you're going to cut from down here, cut up, and then you're going to cut into this curve that you have. Alright, so with that we have cut out the sleeve pattern. You can see this is the pattern we'll use to cut the sleeve. We might need to make changes to this depending on what you want, but let me go to the next step, which is cutting all of this into an off shoulder. Alright, so simply align everything at the top over here, like you can see me doing. Align everything at the top like so, hold everything down, and then I'm going to cut off the top. So what you're going to do, I want you to come from the top part here. I want you to come 4 inches down, alright, and make a mark. Alright, roll a line across. With that, we have turned this into an off shoulder. Our elastic will be planted into the top of this. Alright, so you can see with that we've cut the front, we've cut the back, and we have our sleeve. Now on the sleeve, when I said that the last thing we did to the sleeve could be the last thing depending on what you want. If you want your sleeve to have a lot of excess or just to look puffy, you can leave it like this, no problem. Or if you don't want this, you can taper it down. Now we know where the sleeve starts from, we know where the armhole stops. You can taper this down a bit, but don't taper it down too much, because most times the fabric part of this will not have any elastic depending on the fabric you use. So you want this to you want it to still be easy for you to take your arms in and out. So what you're going to do, if you want to taper this just a bit like I want to, I'm going to cut this down by 2 inches. Alright? And I'm going to connect these 2 inches to this point here. So this is going to taper down my sleeve a bit so that I don't have a lot of excess. Alright, so the next step would be to cut the all the patterns. Now I'm going to cut the patterns, but I'm going to speed up the video. But basically what I will do is simply put my fabric on the fold, place and cut. When you are placing this, the back and the sleeve, when you make a fold, make sure to place the edge of the fabric on that fold, the edge of your pattern. Okay, for instance, let me do the tablecloth. You make a fold like this, right? You make a fold like I've done here. Make sure to place the edge of your pattern on that line so that the back comes out as one piece. If you do this and you put the scissors here, it will come out as 2 pieces. You will see me watch it, but I would speed up that part of the video. So now I'm going to iron. In the other video I think I used wadding. In this video I'm going to use stay. So this is lightly woven fusible interfacing. I'm going to iron this onto the wrong side of the fabric to give it some form. Alright, but yeah, this is what I'm going to use. But if you still want to use wadding like I used in the previous video, it's still okay, but I don't want this to be as thick as that jacket. I don't want this jacket to be as thick as that. Alright. Alright, so here we have 2 sleeves, and as you can see, they're cut on the fold, so it's opening like so, and we're cut on the edge of the fold. You saw me cut the back. Alright, everything is good. The front comes in 2 because I told you can cut it anyhow. We need to end up with 2 pieces. I'm going to use the same patterns I used to cut the fabric, the same patterns we drafted. I'm going to use that pattern to cut the lining as well. Alright, so I've cut everything including the lining. The next thing I need to cut, the next thing I need to sew, because I will go to the sewing machine for that, is the pockets. But I'm not going to film that because it's a welt pocket. I've made a video on this channel on how to draft a welt pocket, and I'll drop a link in the description for how to sew, how to make a welt pocket. Alright, so now we're at the sewing machine like I had predicted. The next thing we're going to do is, this is the pocket first of all. This is the welt pocket. Remember the link is in the description. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead to join the front to the back on the sides. Okay, don't bring the sleeve in yet. Join the front to the back on the sides. Remember what I showed you, we're consuming 1/2 inch with this stitch. Alright. Alright, so the next step is to join the lining the same way. So I'm going to join 1/2 inch on the left and 1/2 inch on the right, just like what I did on the fabric. Alright, so now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to stitch the sleeve. I'm going to turn to the wrong side, and I'm going to still stitch 1/2 inch from here all the way down. By the time I get to the end, I'm going to introduce my lining, and I'm going to stitch that from the front all the way to the curve for the armhole. Alright, 1/2 inch. Alright, so the next thing you will do is you need to cut your rib. Now this rib was cut using the wrist measurement, so I just took the tape around the wrist, which is 6.5 in this case, and I added 1/2 inch to it, so that means this was cut with a width of 7 inches. Alright, this has to be at the end of the day, but lay it flat like this and stitch 1/2 inch from here all the way down first. Alright, so when I'm done with that, I'm going to lay this flat, you see this, and carefully fold it down the middle. Alright, and turn everything around. Alright, bend everything in half. Alright, now I'm going to take this joining that we have here, and I'm going to line it with the joining we have on our sleeve here. Alright, I'm going to stitch from here all the way around to this point. While I do that, I'm going to carefully and gently flatten the elastic. By the time I do that, everything would match at the end of the day. Alright? Alright, after you've done that, next thing you're going to do is you're going to turn your lining to the clean side. Alright, the clean side of your lining, you take it and make it face here. And now I'm going to stitch on the rough side of the lining from here all the way around. But let the clean side of your lining be facing your rib over here. Alright? Okay, after you have stitched around, so that in order to prevent your lining from twisting throughout the entire sewing process, what I want you to do is I want you to align the fabric and the lining at the armhole. Alright, then come to the middle of, like roughly the middle of your sleeve, and then make a stitch here. This is going to prevent the bottom half of your lining from twisting, because we might need to do some back and forth while trying to make our stitch neat, our sewing neat. That's the inner part of the lining neat. So just hold this down now so that we prevent that twisting before it happens. Alright, if you turn everything inside out from here, you see that the inner part of our lining is clean. Alright, and of course the fabric on the other side will be clean as well. Alright, if you want to have an external stitch around the edge of your sleeve, that's where the fabric meets the rib, you can go ahead and make that stitch now, but I don't think I'm going to bother. That's if you want to have that stitch that runs around the sleeve here, you can easily make that stitch by laying this flat, putting it into your machine and simply stitching around. But yeah, that's how you make your sleeve. It's neat inside and outside. Alright, so now the next step is to join the sleeve to the body. I'm going to show you how to join one sleeve, fabric and lining, and I'll do the same thing to the other side. So what I'm going to do next is this. We're going to come and simply place the sleeve. At this point, because of the way the sleeve was cut, you can place any sleeve anywhere. There's no right or left. What we're going to do is we're going to place our sleeve like this, and we're going to simply join them fabric to fabric from here all the way down like this. Once I stitch around, my lines here are going to meet and I will end up here. So just join them together. Alright, so now I'm done with that. Alright, I'm going to simply do the same thing here. So you see, this is supposed to cover up like this. So what you're going to do is this. You see the way I've placed it? See the way this one, because we stitched our sleeve inside, we are not afraid that our lining has twisted inside the sleeve. So what we're going to do is this. Simply flip this guy over, align the joining. You can see I'm keeping clean side of the lining facing clean side of the fabric. I'm keeping the clean side of the sleeve to face the clean side of the body of the lining. And when you figure this out, I'm going to simply join it, same thing I just did on the fabric. I'm going to join from here all the way around, and that should join this sleeve, both the fabric and the lining, to the body. Alright, so after you have done that, if I simply arrange everything, you see the armhole of the lining is clean. Alright, and of course the lining of the armhole around the fabric too is clean as well. I'm going to repeat the same thing on this other side here. Alright, so now the next thing we're going to do is you're going to need to cut the rib for the off shoulder. So what I did was I took the normal off shoulder measurement from here around the body, and that was 40 inches. So I did 40 inches minus 13 inches, and I used that to cut the rib. So make sure you take that measurement, subtract 13 inches from it. The rib is really elastic, so yeah, it's going to pull itself together. You separate the edges like I'm doing now, and we're going to simply stitch one side of it to the fabric and this other side to the lining over here. So this side here would meet the lining, but first let me stitch from here all the way down. Alright. Alright, so you can see I've attached this edge here to the fabric. Alright, next thing I'm going to do, we're going to need to attach it to the lining. So what we're going to do is, you see this, we're going to simply twist it like so. You can start from anywhere, from that side, or you can do the same thing here. Simply just align, straighten out the whole thing, and then you twist it and keep it like so. So I'm going to stitch from here all the way down. Alright, you're going to keep bringing out, twisting out your lining as you sew along. Alright, alright, so with that we have attached the rib to both the fabric and the lining. Alright, so now the next step is for us to install our zipper. So how you are going to do this, you see this is the front, the smooth side is the front of my zipper. So I'm going to place the smooth side, which is the front of my zipper, facing my fabric, and I'm going to stitch the zipper from the bottom to the top. Now I'm stitching on only the lining, and when you want to start stitching, make sure to keep a space of ½ an inch away from the end of your fabric, so that will allow you to sew that ½ inch allowance across there without any stress. So I'm going to go ahead to stitch from here. I'm going to stitch all the way to the middle of the rib. So for me, the rib has a line in the center here. Once I get here, I'm going to stop. Alright, so for you, make sure you sew until you get to the middle of your rib. Okay, don't stitch all the way to this other side of the lining. In between the fabric and the lining, stop in the middle. Alright. Alright, so after installing the zipper, you can zip down, or you can even take off the zip entirely. What you're going to do next is this. You're going to fold in your lining. So you see the lining, we're going to place the clean side of the lining on the clean side of the fabric, and we're going to stitch the bottom all the way up. So you see this part here, I'm going to first stitch ½ inch across the bottom. That's this space we kept of the fabric before our elastic will start. I'll stitch ½ inch I'll stitch ½ inch under here, and then I will stitch on the same stitch I stitched here all the way to the top. When I get to where I have the bend, you can see this, I would take out any excess zipper I have from here. Alright, just watch and see. Alright, once you stitch it the way I have done, you can see you have now neatly finished the fabric and the lining. Alright, and if I zip up, you can see the zipper climbs all the way up to the off shoulder. It's just to go and iron this part here flat and iron the back of it as well. The next thing I'm going to do off camera is I'm going to repeat that what I just did on this other side that is still open, so that we would have completely sealed up the front. Alright, so now I'm done with both sides of the, I finished off both sides of the zipper. Next thing you're going to need to do, you're going to need to measure from one side of this angle. So you see this place here, you're going to measure from here all the way across to the other side. So I have done that, and for me it was 32 inches. You're going to subtract 10 inches from that number and then use that to cut your rib. So the rib I have here was cut using the length of 22 inches. So that's 32 inches minus 10 inches. That's what we have here. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten here like so. So separate the fabric from the lining, and I'm going to stitch on my rib. So starting from the joining here, I'm going to stitch. When I get to this angle that I have here, I would stop, rotate the entire rib to here, and start to stitch down. But once I stitch down like 3 inches, I would stop, and then I would attach the lining. I will show you how to attach the lining as well. Alright, just make sure you stitch this part here first. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to now take the lining, I'm going to stitch from here. Alright, I'm going to basically just cover here. I'll stitch from here. When I get to the angle, I will turn it and then stitch on the lining. I'll make sure I stop just where this first place here, where I stopped here, and then I'll go to the other side. Just watch what I'm doing. with that, I have knitting here up and the lining. Alright, so I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Alright, make sure not to twist your rib, so lay the whole thing flat, follow it like that step by step until you get to where you are going. Check and see that you've not twisted the rib at all, and then I'm going to repeat the same thing here. Alright, alright, so you can see with that I have stitched here neatly. Alright, next thing I'm going to do is you're going to simply turn the whole thing inside out. So just turn everything inside out. Alright, and you're going to come back to the band. Now the next thing we're going to do is to simply stitch from here, and it will lead you to where you stopped on the other side of the front over here, and that will finish this off. After that, we'll need to look for a way to come out of here. Alright, so after you have done that, look for anywhere. So like for instance, here I have this one of the joining by the side. I'm going to simply look for a place here and lock the beginning, and I'm going to give a space of like 6 inches and lock the end and loosen in between. That would allow me to turn everything back out from here. After doing that, we now have a guaranteed way of turning everything to the clean side. But before we go back to the clean side, you are going to come to your neck. So you see this here, this is the neck part. You can see we still have a zip hanging out inside here. What you are going to do is this: you are going to bring them together. So you see this part here, this is that sleeve, the joining that joined the sleeve on the lining. This is the joining that joined the sleeve on the fabric. So you are going to come to the neck. All right, this is the off shoulder, not the neck, sorry. This is the top rib. Alright, you can see the bottom rib we joined together and stitched. The top rib we sewed, they were attached to the fabric separately and the lining separately. That's why we have it laying like this. So what we're going to do is simply make sure that all your points meet. Alright, I'm going to stitch the fabric, I'm going to stitch the rib together at this point. Alright, make sure that you get everything correctly, don't twist anything. So we found it. I'm going to stitch from here all the way across. Alright, starting from this zip, you can see the zip here. I'm starting from the zip on this edge here, and I'm going all the way across. Make sure to be careful while doing this. Alright, after you have done that, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to simply turn everything inside out from the hole that we left in our lining. Alright? Alright, so the last thing is to cover up the hole that we have left here. So if you've been using the same color for everything, this should be a nice little stitch, or you can use hemming gum to simply put here and iron it down. For me, I'm going to just make a stitch running this from top to the bottom to seal this up. So after all the stitches we've made, even at the neck, you will see that now the fabric and the lining, you can see the way they are both anchored on the collar. That's because there's a stitch holding everything in one place. The next thing we need to do is we need to now make a stitch that will neaten everything up. So I'm going to start from here. I'm going to make a stitch at the bottom up here. It's going to go around the bottom of the jacket. It's going to turn all the way to the other side here and go up. Just follow what I'm doing. I'm going to start from here and I'm going to end up here with one stitch. Alright, watch. Alright, so that's it basically. If you've come this far, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Do have a lovely day.